Good evening to you, our viewers, or wherever you are. We'd like to say welcome. This is the Bottom Line Liberia, and here is where we discuss the issues and give our personal opinions. Our opinions may not be wrong, they may not be right, and so we just see it as we see it, and we talk about it as we want to talk about it. My name is Linford Goa. I live in Norway, and tonight we have with us as our guest panelist, Mr. Francis Mensah. Mr. Mensah is also in the Scandinavia. He's from Sweden, and he's going to be with us tonight and probably fast forward as the show goes on for the next couple of weeks. We'll have Mr. Mensah. If he has the time, he's going to be a regular panelists here on the show. And so Bottom Line is extending. This is a European network. So we're trying to expand to other parts of Europe where we can have diverse views on the issues. So let me say welcome to you, Francis. And how are you?
Yeah, Lincoln, thanks. Thanks for the opportunity of being here again. It's always a pleasure being on this platform that is building up, and subsequently, I see it being a formidable platform in Europe and the world at large. I'm doing good. I have been a very good weather here today, kind of sunny, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Very good. Yeah, we share one thing in common, that is the Scandinavian weather. And normally we Scandinavians, when we meet, the first thing we talk about is the weather or something. But yeah, we've had downpour of rain. Like yesterday was rain, but today when we woke up, the sky was blue, clear, and so it's been sunny here today. And moving forward to the end of August, it's going to be like this: one day rain, one day bad weather, a lot of what you call that dew, and then the next is sun. So, and I guess it's not too different from Sweden. And so, and by the way, for those of you who do not know about Scandinavia, we have 3 countries in Scandinavia and 5 countries in the Northern land. Yeah. So there's the 3 countries in the Scandinavia that are Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. And when the 3 of us meet, let's say Francis from Sweden, I'm from Norway, and then we got a guy from Denmark. When we meet, we can decide to speak our various languages. Okay. Francis can speak Swedish, I will understand him. I can speak Norwegian, Francis will understand me. The Danish guy can speak. So this is the common thing about we the Scandinavian, in addition to the weather. And then I think the only 2 Scandinavian languages that are quite different. They are the Finnish, or not Scandinavian, but the northern languages that are Finnish and I think the people from Iceland. I was on a flight with this guy from Iceland, and he was talking on the phone to somebody, and I could hardly understand anything. Few words I understood. But then, so I asked him, "Where are you from?" He said, "Because I could see the Scandinavian in here, or the Nordic ship in here." And then he said, "I'm from Iceland." I said, "Oh." He said, "Where are you from?" I said, "I'm from Norway." So, "Oh, I know why you're asking, because you don't understand what I say." But it's good to have you here, Francis. And like I said, going forward, we're going to be working together by God's grace, and we hope that we can give the message to our people, and that we can propound our views. And like we say normally on this show, what you, Francis, say is what you, Francis, think. Nobody's telling you what to say. Nobody's telling you how to think. And then your views is your views. People may not accept it, but nobody can change your view. It may not be right, but it's not wrong either, because that's what you feel. So you feel free on the show to say what you say. The only grand rule that we have here is we don't insult our guests. We don't insult each other on the show as panelists. And so it's good to have you here. But by way of information, we're going to have a guest on the show tonight. And tonight is not going to be the usual politics thing. we're going to have a guest, and we'll be discussing the role of the media, the influence that the media has on the electoral process in any country for that matter. But we'll be focusing on Liberia. Francis, as you know, we're going to have elections in just in 98 days time, or uh, no, no, 88 days time. It's reducing, and so it's less than 3 months actually. We're going to have elections. So the media will have a role to play, and the question is, how effective is the media in the electoral process? What can the media do to make the difference? How can the media positively impact or negatively impact the electoral process? So those are some of the things that we'll be talking about tonight. And and I just want us to start by telling telling our viewers, although we do not have a viewer yet, uh, but on this link we do not have a viewer, but on the other link, which is not visible here, we have up to 8 persons. But the question is, how do you think the media can impact elections? What you're not a media person, I agree, but as a citizen, as somebody who is just an ordinary Liberian citizen, right? What do you think you want to hear from the media in a campaign time?
Look, Lincoln, look, the media has a pivotal role to play in these elections that are coming. Uh, it cannot be overemphasized the role of the media. The media has to exhibit itself as being impartial, especially when it comes to the government media institutions. These institutions are basically for the state and for the people, and they should be able to propagate message of peace, engender debates in the process, create that enabling environment for electors, for voters to go and vote. You know, anything outside of that, we have the propensity for chaos because our country is already polarized, and the media has a watchdog in its society should be able to message the right information to the people, convey the right information. Uh, I see the boom of the internet. Everybody has streamline. Everybody go on Facebook, and that is an imminent danger because we have people who are not journalists, who do not adhere to the ethics of journalism and the norms of journalism. So people go out there, say outlandish things, comments, and it is the obligation of the media, the mainstream media, to streamline some of these comments, put it into the right perspective, so that voters and our partners, international partners who have invested heavily in these elections, can see that Liberians are mature people enough to handle the elections. Otherwise, there'll be chaos. So the media, as they call it, the folk estate, has a very, very important role to play in these elections. And we are looking at them to see how best they can conduct themselves, devoid of politics, devoid of political affiliation. Although, I mean, there will be some level of siding, but it will do a lot of injustice to the people when they convey messages of hate, inciting, and stuff like that. So yeah, that's my thought on the role of the media in these coming forthcoming elections.
Okay, Francis, thank you very much. Our guest is not here yet, and it's like we kind of pulling the horse before the cart before the horse.
Oh,
But
all right.
yeah, no, it's okay. But let's while we await our guests, let's
Mhm.
go on to some of the training issues in Liberia. Today, we understand, or we got a news that Spoon Network was shut down, and there are conflicting reports. In the public out there, people are making it to appear as if the government is clamping down on Spoon Network, that the government closed down Spoon. But again, the government was quick to come out with this correction that Spoon was closed down because of a case that is pending, or an ongoing case between Spoon management and the former Legis boss, Mr. Uh, uh, um,
Wilma Smith.
Smith. Yeah, and so uh, first of all, as a media personnel, let me just register that a front on a shutting down of any media institution, whether legally or illegally, because that is my background, that is my orientation, that is where I come from. So a front on it. But notwithstanding, if I have a son or wife or daughter, and he or she does bad and
Mhm.
break the law, or that the law have to punish him or her, I think I will feel bad looking at the punishment, but again, I will allow the law to take its course. So this is the news we woke up to. What do you make of that? I mean, is it surprising to you that Spoon could go through such a dilemma?
No, first of all, I mean the actions of the government is condemnable. In no uncertain terms, we condemn the action of the government. There's a civil case, of a civil lawsuit. Civil lawsuit. You need to. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a journalist, but I've read a lot and on these matters, and I think that the government should have exercise a restraint, and we do not know the details of it. If the network was served uh, a prior notice and they did not adhere to that notice, or whatever it is. But the case is a civil case. I don't think it warrants the closure of the institution, going into the studio while they were broadcasting live, and I mean that's it's unwholesome. We shouldn't, I mean, allow that in our democracy. There's no room for that. You know, uh, the law is the law. Whatever allegations against the network was taken to court, and I think there are remedies, there are steps to be taken to before you close down institution, whatever it is, even you going down to homes. The court will inform you prior, I mean, give prior knowledge or information that will come in there. So and so date, I mean, to have a seizure or lockdown of the property. So
Well,
whatever it is, I mean, it's just my take on it. I think, I mean, it's condemnable. We shouldn't allow that in our democracy. No, there's no room for that.
okay, but this is not the first time. Um, a couple of years ago, I think 2021, no, 2020 or 21 or 2018, around there, the Roots FM was closed down. That is Costa's radio station was closed down broad daylight while the station was online broadcasting. So this is not the first time. So do you think this is a tactic deployed by the ruling party to try to silence the media, or is it like they are targeting certain group of media institutions? Because the reason I'm asking whether they are targeting is that there are several radio stations in Liberia and online stations that say a lot of things, but some of them are still operating, even ones that are operated by the ruling party. They say a lot of things, but they're still operating and nobody's going after them. So are they targeting certain groups?
Well, I don't want to say that, and the government is targeting certain groups. I mean, it is. it's a commonplace. It's commonplace in our society. From I'm old enough to remember Samuel Doe, who closed down several newspapers who were very critical of him. Uh, he went after his opponents, and it went up. It came up to Charles Taylor himself. Even Ellie himself closed down one of the, I think, or it was Costa's former station. He
Mhm.
went to jail, and so the government needs to exercise restraint. I mean, need to have tolerance, especially when the president, his officials, and the apologists claim to be that he is a man of peace. We have no political prisoner in jail. And since 1847, these people can talk and speak wherever they want, and they won't be they won't be, sought after. So I think it's incumbent upon the government now to prove all the rhetorics I've said about the president being a man of peace, and the government has no political prisoner, and freedom of expression is at the highest echelon since 1847. I don't want to say since that government is claiming is going to doing a clamp down on critical voices, but again, we see a lot of critical voices, although we see some people that are very mediocre in their approach to things, trying to be, in the middle. But we will wait to see what the government. I don't think this is government. I don't want to say now that's the government approach, because it says Wilmer Smith. This is the government approach versus what you call it, Spoon Network. As far gone, I got listened to him the other day as he claiming he was the same person who defended the government when they brutally shut down Roots FM and took away the thousand, the expensive studio equipment.
Mhm.
So yeah, so we'll see what to say. What will be the outcome of the whole incident, and then we will determine whether it's a clamp down or targeting media institutions, or whatever terminology we need to give it.
Okay. I wholeheartedly and frankly agree with you, Francis, on that one. We gotta wait and see how it works out, how it plays out. But people are making issues out of it that the station should not have been closed. About Lechevu Rennie, who is the information minister, uh, put out a release this afternoon distancing the government from the entire episode, pointing to the fact that this case is between Mr. Wilmer Smith, former Leach's boss, and the Spoon Network and its CEO, Mr. Stanton Waterspoon. And so we'll wait to see, because if if it appears to be like what it is, that the case is not with the government, as Rennie put it, the information minister put it, then I think the court that has the authority over the case. So, but again, like when people take it and run with it, and people start to shift blames on other people that, oh, this person, and but let's look at the activities of Spoon. I mean, we're not judging them here. We're not passing down any judgment on anybody here. We all in a business of discussing issues. But let's look at the activities of Spoon uh, in recent times. Okay, if we want to. Now, Spoon has been very vocal. Spoon digs into every little thing that happens, which is the work of the media, though, to try to inform the public. I think our guest is trying to settle in as soon as we can get him, we'll bring him in. But uh, in a business of media, in a media business, whether it's print or broadcast, there is this risk that the institution or the individual takes, you know, when you want to dig out information about somebody, and
Mm-hmm.
remember that that person whose information you want to dig out could also come after you if they feel that you've done injustice to them, if they feel that you've not done the proper judgment or the proper research to bring out that information, or if they think that the information you gave me is false. So Spoon has been very vocal in recent time, and if indeed this case is between Spoon and Mr. Wilmer Smith, or what do you think? What do you think it will it will end up like? Is it going to be like the government will be involved as people are thinking, or is it going to be like it's the court? No, because I'm confused. This is individual who sued an institution, and then the court issued the closure of the station, but then people take it to be like the government. So I'm still confused. How you think it's going to end up? Or because or you also came
Well,
out and said you said we should wait, let's see how it's going to play out. But I'm confused at this
yeah,
stage.
you know, Wilmer Smith is a private citizen, a former government employee. So it puts him in a situation that is very conflicting. He's still a member of the CDC, and people will see it as a cover up for the CDC to get at Spoon Network. So it's not easily to divorce Wilmer Smith and the government, a seat, the party, the government from this case. But again, as I stated earlier, Wilmer Smith is a private citizen. He has the right to, I don't know, to legal actions against libel, against defamation of character, and yeah, we hope that the government does not physically put its hands up, you know, then it becomes something no it becomes the government has taken its side, and as though Wilmer Smith he's served in the government before. I don't I've not heard that he has distanced himself from the ruling party or whatever it is. So yeah, but hopefully that the government may not get involved in it, and so it shouldn't give a wrong signal out there. You muted.
Fair enough. Let's go to other things that are trending in the country. Although it may sound belated, but recently, Mr. Henry Pedro Costa, um, I personally would blame him as the former mouthpiece of the Unity Party, vis-a-vis Joe Boakai, standard bearer of the Unity Party, former vice president that is, um, issued a very strong statement where he levied several allegations against the vice president, and in fact, broke the news that the former vice president had promised him earlier, Henry Costa, that he would take him as a running mate. And in that direction, Costa made several preparations, tried to even broker a deal where the former vice president could meet some potential investors, in Accra, Ghana, to be able
Mhm.
to sponsor his electoral campaign. But the thing here is, Mr. Costa had said that he's distancing himself from the former VP, and he would not be with him anymore. Does this come as a surprise to you when two allies, when two people who are friends just break up like that?
Well, in politics, uh, there are no permanent friends. Interests is of key paramount when it comes to politics. What Costa said on his revelation, some of them are far fetched. Uh, he must have loved former VP Boyka so much to allow $30 million to go away. And when he said some of the revelation he made, that was very striking to me. When he claimed that the people, so the business, or those investors or business guys, said that he was the formidable person to run for presidency. I mean, that's what I mean. That's is blowing your own horn too high. It's been. I mean, your ego has been. It's been. Is overboard. With the plethora of candidates we have, good candidates, good people in the country, Cummings, the incumbent Weir, former Vice President Boyka. I mean, I don't know, what's his name, Gonglo, and those guys will come with Moneybar. Where the guys will come with $30 million and say, "You, Henry Costa, we think you are the best person. You are the most popular," according to him. According to his survey, what was the margin of error in the survey? What was it, positive skew or negative skew? I don't know, but what was it? And come on and say, I don't want to $30 million. Give it to VP Borka. I mean, if you have said, give him the $30 million to run my senatorial campaign instead, I would give it some iota, I give it some basis of truth, but I mean, they were friends. They were very close, as we saw in videos around. He took the vice president around when he went to America. I think the vice president was even at a house babysitting his son. Yeah. So he knows a lot. So I don't
But
want
first,
to
this is not the first time Costa has given away his own interest. He said once on his own show that even if it costs him if it costs him his senatorial bid, he would rather see Joe Barker become president, and he can relinquish his senatorial aspirations.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it could be that he rejected the $30 million and said, "Well, look, listen, I want to see Joe Barker as president, and if I am picked as vice president, I will be a potential president after Joe Barker." But we see our our guest is in the back, and let's see. I don't know whether he's hearing us, but let's see if we can bring the guest on. Hello, Joe. Do you hear us?
I can hear you loud and clearly. Can you hear me?
Okay, you are very, very loud and clear.
I can hear you, sir. Yeah.
Francis, how you doing? Good to see you.
I'm good, Joe. How are you, my brother?
I'm great.
Oh, well, listen. You guys are making me to kind of worry. Do you know each other before?
No.
No. I mean,
Okay, Francis Mensah is in Sweden. He's a long-time friend too. We met here actually. But you see, Joe is my professional brother. And besides being my professional brother, Francis, I'm introducing Joe to you and also to the public. Joe is a blood brother to me. Joe and I come from a long way. All we passed through, can I say here? And Joe knows what I'm talking about. Joe have been there for me a lot of time. Joe was there.
Was it name on ERWA before? The name was on. Did he work with ERWA?
No, Joe. I live in the ERWA area, but never worked for ERWA. No.
Okay,
yeah, Joe. I think Joe lived in the ERWA area, not too far from the RI highway there. I think I know his area. Yeah. But Joe actually came into the lamb of journalism in Habel, if I'm not mistaken. And Joe also testified that one of the first person who would want to make Joe this popular as he became on Kiss FM and radio. LCM to be specific.
Okay, yeah, I remember the name now. Patrick Okada on the back in the days there. All right.
Yes. And so this is the famous Joe Mason on Newsbeat.
Yeah, exactly. That I
Yeah.
remember the name now. I mean,
It's just
1991,
Francis said back in the days, the man is making us a little old, my man.
Yeah, my man, you make
Yeah,
you say it again.
1991, 1992. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember those
Yeah,
days.
but you know, if you go back to the 90s, man, we talk about when I first met Joe, it was 93, around
Yeah.
93, no, 90, 91, 92, 93. We were in Habel,
Exactly.
and I would meet this fine gentleman, and he expressed his interest to be a part of the radio station. And I'm like, we're not getting money. Why would this boy? But then again, that was the situation. And then Joe comes, and this boy, you know, when you're in the media, one thing you do is you kind of careful. This guy I'm bringing, who is he and whatever. And then Joe comes, the first time we try this young man, he's very eloquent, he's very bright on the radio. And I'm like, okay, I think we got asset. And our former big brother and friend, say Manapara was there to coach him. And all of a sudden, Joe became an asset. And one thing also I'll say about Joe is, I mean, he was committed. Joe lives in the Dolotan area, which is behind her belt. And Joe will walk like 2-3 hours to get to the radio station every day. You know,
Oh,
for me, I
wow.
like to give people that flower while they are alive. And 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 he will come every day and work, no pay, and he will go back until when we all had to flee Habel. So I've been knowing Joe for long, and then we regrouped in Monrovia, and again we left together. You know, so like I said, Joe have been there for me a lot of time, and then I have been there for him. So it's a family something. So I gave you, Joe, your flower while you're still alive. So welcome, Joe, to the Borderland. This is where we discuss the issue, and we give our opinions. Our opinions may not be right, but they are not wrong either, because that's exactly what we feel, and nobody tells us to do what we do or says, or nobody says what we should say. We say what we want to say. So tonight we'll be looking at the role, the influence that the media has over the electoral process, and if there are some advantages or disadvantages. So that's what we'll basically be looking at it. As we are moving gradually to elections, we are it is some, I think 88 or 89 days to elections, and we'll be having new president. It could be George Weah re-elected. It could be former Vice President Joe Boakai, uh, or it could be Cummings. It could be Tawan Gonglo. It could be anybody. But Joe, as a media personnel, tell me, first of all, let's just start like this. How do you look at the electoral process as they unfold in Liberia right now?
Well, thank you again, Linford, for your very kind invitation to have me on today. I know you've tried to get me on a number of times, but the time just could not work.
I
So
know.
I'm happy that it worked today, and I'm really, really, really glad to be on. Thanks to you for just trying to disseminate information to our people. I think it's so important as we go towards election. Francis, nice meeting you as well. And I think I listened earlier on during the course of the conversation. But before I answered, let me just get this off my chest. I awoke. I know it's something you all talked about earlier, but I awoke this morning. Even as we talk about the influence of the media in the electoral process, I awoke this morning to the rather distressing news that Spoon Network was shut down. And as president of Aja, we condemned in the strongest term the closure of Spoon Network to include a television station and a number of radio stations reportedly on the orders of the civil law court. The closure of any media entity in the country, especially one as prominent as the Spoon Network, just months away from election, is very, very concerning. I think it's important for us to stress that a vibrant and independent media is crucial to the survival of our fledgling democracy. I spoke this morning as well to the chief executive officer of the Spoon Network, Madam Tiki Khan, and just asserting some of the facts behind the closure. As an organization, we will continue to talk to as many people as possible. But this is very, very, very concerning, and we're very, very, very disappointed. The government has used the courts before to not only shut down but confiscate the broadcast equipment of Roost FM that was in 2019. So this is very concerning for us. The question I asked myself, would there be a defamation case against Spoon Network? Because we know the Spoon Network is one of the government's fiercest critic, and they're one of the biggest network. So will they be shut down today if they were a fan of the government? You know, was there a coincidence that just a week ago the CDC Council of Patriots called on the government to immediately shut down Spoon for airing what they call misinformation? So, these are all coincidences that we don't take for granted. So, but again, it's very, very disappointing, and we're following this event very, very closely. But it doesn't all go well for our democracy with just months to our elections.
Okay. It's good that you brought that up. You are president of ARCHA, that's the Association of Liberian Journalists in the Americas, and um, uh, we've seen these things unfold before, you know, and they're very troubling. Like just a few hours ago, I had a personal podcast where I said, as a media personnel, it hurts me or it concerns me when I see one media institution being closed down, whether legally or illegally. And the fact that that is my orientation. But it's good that Arja, through you as the president, have taken a position to address the issue and, in fact, register your dismay. And we hope that the case will be looked into, because the Ministry of Information has just released or earlier on released a press statement saying that it is not a government that closed down Spoon Network, but it was rather the court uh, emanating from the case between Spoon Network and Mr. Wilmer Smith, former latest boss. So we hope that that will play out. And just before you came on, Francis and myself were just discussing it. And one thing Francis said that caught my ears was that we hope we can let it play out and let's see how it's going to end. Um, Despite the fact that Spoon Network has been critical of the government, I don't think this case should be between the government and Spoon. So uh, uh, we hope that it's gonna work out. And
In a perfect world, Linford, that is correct. Look, if our system were independent, was trustworthy, we would not be having this discussion. But the system we have in our country, whether it is executive, the legislative, the judiciary, we can argue that there's complete separation of powers. No, there's always been interference one way or the other. So when these things happen, our eyebrows are raised in terms of, okay, it's just 3 months to this election. By the way, I know you talked about it earlier, and I heard, Francis case. Look, Wilma Smith's record, the record for which he's suing Spoon Network, is in the public domain. Look, defamation is one done with an intent to cause grievous harm to someone. The fact that Wilma Smith was dismissed by the president is an open record. The fact that he was indicted by the LHCC and referred to the Justice Ministry for prosecution is in the public domain. How was he defamed by Spoon? All right, that is one question. The second question that I ask myself, obviously these are all things that go in my head. Will Wilma Smith be filing a defamation suit against Spoon Network if Spoon was promoting the government's policy or was not as critical of the government? Will he be filing a defamation suit at this time? That's a question you and I can answer. With just 3 months to the elections, how long is this process going to drag on? Spoon is going to remain closed, and every day Spoon remain closed, it's a disincentive for our democracy because they're not out there espousing their views. It's just going to drag on till after the election, then all of a sudden they magically reappear on the air. These are questions that concerns us.
yeah,
So,
yeah, but Joe, you are saying that the dismissal of Mr. Smith as former boss of Leches is in public domain, and but I think Wilbur Smith is saying that Spoon Network accused him as being criminal. I think it's not about his dismissal or because if it was about his dismissal, he would have taken the case up with the government. But he is saying that
No,
he was.
I also went a little further. I said he was indicted by the
Mhm,
LACC.
mhm.
He was referred for prosecution to the Minister of Justice
Yeah, but was he
by the
was he brought
LACC.
down guilty? Was he brought down guilty as criminal?
What
Not
I'm
yet.
just saying, look, it's one thing to argue, it's just the semantics, right? And look, the court has proven otherwise. But I'm just raising to you these questions that come to mind because we don't trust the system as they exist. Again, like I said, there's precedent to go by. The government has used the courts before to shut down a media entity. So this is not the first time. Whether they are involved this time, I don't know. But I think it's a question for all of us to look at in this event because, hey, it could be spoon today. Because the timing is just so odd for me. The timing is odd. It's we talk about 87 days to elections, right? And all of a sudden, the court pops out of nowhere and sends sheriff to this biggest media entity and shut them down because of this. What the ministry wants us to believe is the everyday thing that's happening in our legal system. Someone is suing the B network. It's a regular thing. The government wants us to believe that. President tells otherwise. And I'm just throwing it out there that this is very concerning for us. And I'm hoping we can all critically look at this thing because it's easy to say, especially if you're not a fan of Spoon Network, if you don't like the message they put out there, it's easy to say that this is the right thing. I'm just saying we all need to be mindful because if it happened to Spoon today, it could happen to another network tomorrow. And we all need to be mindful because for us, it doesn't matter for us at Alja what views you espouse because I think it's healthy for our democracy, irrespective of your views. The government has a responsibility to be respectful of the views, whether it is for or against. That is how we build a vibrant democracy. Yeah, like you said, they put out a statement out there, and we're still following this process. But at our level, we have all these suspicions, and again, like I said, we don't trust the system as it currently exists, and we're going to be critical of the system.
Yeah, but I
Francis.
mean, yeah, look, the allegation against Mr. Smith, it has come a long way. I mean, as Joe said, it's in the public view, and somebody called it criminal. It's just a word, a terminology used. It doesn't necessarily indict you. I mean, it doesn't defame your reputation because you're already being indicted. Your character has already been assassinated in one shape or form by indicting you because we must have been in the headlines for a while. And this,
But Francis, let me stop you right there. Now, I look at you, Francis. Excuse me, Francis is a rogue. He's a thief. I just accuse you, and then somebody comes and begin to refer to you as a thief, thief, thief. When you or I have not taken you to court or you are not being brought down guilty, I think this is where William Smith comes from. The government or LACC indicted him. The government dismissed him. They have not taken him to court. They have not brought down any guilty verdict against him. But Spoon Network, according to him, Smith, Spoon Network called him criminal because you will not know me to be a criminal when I am convicted. Indictment does not mean conviction. So this is
yeah,
where it comes from.
yeah, one problem that comes to mind is that when
Mhm.
did he file that lawsuit? How long has it been on the dock?
From the time
You
Spoon
know,
called him criminal.
So, so,
yeah,
so
yes. I mean, listen, the closure of the station,
Mhm.
it has to correlate with when the case was. I mean, the lawsuit was filed. You cannot do a 5G or 6G legal process when you have because I'm certain that that civil law code has a lot of cases on its dock. We got people have been in the Morris Central Prison for 4 to 5 years without going to trial, without being investigated. And we must make incidents just a couple of months ago. So it gives a mixed signal of why and how the government is the court is tackling this case. It may send a negative signal out there that the government, the government through the court is trying to crack down on Spoon because Spoon is a critical voice. Again, we must make it a private citizen. He has the right to take them to court. But my concern here is that how how come this case has come so fast track when we know that have previous cases according to law legal luminaries. Cases come in first in first out. So that it raises a lot of eyebrows. But again, we must make a private citizen. He has the right to take them to court. But my concern is that the correlation with the closing of the station being a critical voice against the government and the elections, how close elections are. As Joe said, we do not know how and when the station will come back. Oh, they may Monday file a bond to reopen. Is left with the judge's discretion. His own their own discretion to say, look, we cannot accept this bond, and it will be dragging on. So again, we just
So,
hope to see it play out. And I hope that it does not take that trend when the station, or where the station will be closed for a long time.
If this is the classic government manipulation, I bet you, and I hope I'm wrong. If this is the classic government manipulation, I bet you, and like you said, who's Wilma Smith? Wilma Smith is a part of the ruling elite, part of the governing party. If this is a classic government manipulation, Spoon FM will remain closed until after the elections. I hope that is not the case. I really hope that is not the case because they provide an alternative voice. They are an important platform, but I really do hope that is not the case.
okay, but let's look at. For me, I may be playing a devil's advocate, but I like to look at things, from different perspective. Though, let's agree that Wilmer Smith is part of the ruling party, right? But at the same time, hmm, at the same time, he has filed a complaint or he has filed a lawsuit against um, um, the management of Spoon Network. Now, he is a citizen. He's entitled to rights as well. Let's face it. So if he feels that he was not treated fairly and he wants justice, should we say because he's a part of the ruling party, so his case should not be looked into? Or
No,
what are
no,
we
no,
saying?
that's not what I'm saying. I'll just put the question back to you. If Spoon Network
Mm-hmm.
I put it the other way. If this was Freedom FM,
Mm-hmm.
if this was Freedom FM, a pro-government entity who
Mm-hmm.
has said this thing about Wilmer Smith,
Mm-hmm.
will he be filing a lawsuit?
Well, again, so then it comes to the individuality that Freedom FM is a choice. Freedom FM will say, okay, for me, I got time. Okay, let me tell you, Mr. Cummings, for example, Mr. Cummings was dragged to court. Henry Costa sat on his platform and called Mr. Cummings all kinds of names. Individuals called on his platform and called Mr. Cummings all kinds of names. Mr. Cummings disregarded them. He decided, well, I'm not going after anybody. Even the people that took him to court after the case was ended. He decided not to go after anybody. So it's a freedom of choice. The same way you, Joe, I can come at you and you say, well, no, Linford is my old friend, so he's my friend. I can't go after him. But if I go after friends, and friends will say, no, me, I will go after Linford. So you see, it's a choice. So in as much as Wilmer Smith is a member of the ruling party, he's also an individual person, and he can say, no, listen, I will not accept anybody defaming my character. So I will make sure I seek justice. I
Well,
hope you guys are following me.
yeah. So Linford, I do get big progress on this because I think we disagree on that. I hold my views, of course.
Mhm.
But again, like I said, we're going to be watching this keenly, and I really hope. I want to believe the Minister of Information, but if precedent is anything to go by, I don't. I don't. And so we'll be following this case closely. And we'll see what happens on Monday. But as an organization, that is our view. We condemn this. We think it's bad for our democracy. We think it's not helpful to the electoral process. And I just hope this. And the other thing I like to say, also, I'm really hoping that candidates in these elections are watching this as well. I really hope they are watching it, not just watching it, but are able to speak out on this. Whether they believe is right or whether they believe is wrong. Because I think this is very important for our democracy. It is that important because I know there are different sides of the divide. There are folks, who think is good and there are folks who think is bad, especially in the opposition. Again, like I said, it doesn't matter whether it's full network, it doesn't matter what is the closing argument. We need to be consistent in our advocacy for press freedom. We need to be consistent because look, people died in this country for us to have the right to speak freely and for the press to be able to operate independently, void of these kinds of things that's happening right now. So I just wanted to make that point.
Okay, thank you very much. But again, Joe, I may be taking a different trend, and people may not understand what I'm saying here. But let me just intimate. Now, press freedom. We are on. We're on a press freedom right now. We are enjoying the KAK, that's the Camara or Freedom of Speech Act that was approved by this government. But the thing is, the press freedom. You and I know that in journalism we have creed, we have ethics that we follow. Um, the two major laws, libel and slander. We are very much aware of that, and we operate within that framework. So if somebody feels offended, that person also has the right, not because we have right, okay, as journalists, but that person also has the right to clarify, to vindicate himself. So um the part where when things happen two between a media entity or media personnel and a private citizen. And then we try to look at it from because at the end of the day, the civil law code is a government institution. So it's a court that will handle all disputes. So then when we look at it from the government perspective, as always in Liberia, then I get concerned. So
Let me say this.
mhm.
I said you're saying to me that you have explicit confidence in the judiciary of our country. You have explicit confidence in all aspects of our governing process. If you do, God bless your heart. I don't. I don't have that confidence. Even the Chief Justice, there's been reports, credible reports, that the judiciary is compromised. Look, if we had that, if I had the explicit confidence in the judiciary that they will operate independently, I will be fine. I'll be fine. But our country is such that, Leaford, we have not established that confidence over the course of these many years. So for you to say, okay, yeah, it's the civil law code, let them leave it in the air, they make the right decision, means you have that much confidence in them. I
Okay,
don't. Because again,
actually,
like I said,
I have somebody who wants to come on.
okay.
This person is, the person very well. The person and us, you and me, Joe, we all work together before, not in the same institution though, but we work at the same time, meaning that we are contemporaries. So the person has a different view. The person wants to come on, but he's having some technical difficulties. But we'll switch while we are going. Maybe he will come on because I think he has different view on that. But I will not call him
Yeah,
in until he can manage to get on.
yeah,
If he
yeah,
can.
Lincoln. Let me just come in. Let me just chime in there.
Uh-huh.
You see, the problem we have right now in Liberia, I mean, the social media, uh, people who are not trained journalists, I mean, but specific reference to Mr. Stanton Waterspoon. Uh, I mean, it's a man who say he says this how he sees it, and I think he should be held liable. When you make certain claims too. That does not negate the fact that he's not a journalist. He should not be held liable for defamation or whatever it is. So
Mm.
I think people who are talk show hosts, who want to play the journalistic role should be able to go through some training to understand the rudiments of being a journalist. I mean, the do's and don'ts within. I mean, within the profession. I mean, I know a lot of people around who just go out and make outlandish claims. I mean, against people. And at the end of the day, they say, "Oh, I'm not a journalist," So some of these people should be held accountable. Even though we're looking at it from the vantage point that the government has its hands in it, but people who are masquerading as talk show hosts and will be journalists should be held accountable as well. For the actions. No,
Joe, you got any comment on that?
Oh no, I agree. No, I mean, look, ethics, integrity matter in journalism. I mean, I cannot emphasize that enough. Because and we talked about that as well. That's the reason why we're considered watchdogs of the society, right? As journalists, we should hold ourselves to that high standard. So that way, when we say things, when we do things, we are believable. But one of the reasons why there are issues with the media now as well in terms of credibility is the fact that people don't ascribe to those core tenets of the profession in terms of being ethical and being responsible in our repertorial duties. So I couldn't agree with you, Francis. That is something we at AJA advocate on a consistent basis. That with this huge responsibility that we have, we ourselves need to be able to checkmate ourselves in terms of just making sure we're abiding by the ethics of the profession. So I agree completely. I agree.
Okay. It's getting interesting. Our main topic here is the influence that the media has on the electoral process worldwide, okay? But specifically in Liberia. And if there are advantages or disadvantages, we'll be looking at that. But then this coincided with the closure of Spoon Network, and then we were also lucky at the same time to have the president of ARJA, that is the Association of Liberian Journalists in the Americas, and we are discussing now the closure of Spoon. Of course, we'll be transitioning later. But then we have somebody who wants to come in to have probably a different view from what we're discussing, and that person is Mr. Emmanuel Abalo. Mr. Emmanuel Abalo is not a new name in the journalism business. The guy, this guy comes from the Marco Francis, school of thought. I know. Well, Iman, let me say welcome to you, and he's also been former president of the PUL. So we have two leaders here. Joe is president of AJA. That I guess Emmanuel Abalo also falls under because he's in America, and he's been former president of the PUL. So, Iman, let's say welcome to you. This is what we're discussing. Spoon Network has been closed down, and the government came back and said, no, don't blame us. We didn't close them down. We closed them down. I mean, not we, the government closed them down, but the court closed them down because they have a case with Mr. Wilmer Smith because they call him criminal and he sued them. What do you say?
Yeah, I want to say hi to the panelists here, Linford and Mr. Chiloplay, as well as Francis, and obviously Joe, who at this juncture in our journalism journey is my boss since he's in charge of Alja. I want to say greetings, Joe. So here is, let me just give a little historical background on where we are, how we got to where we are. So prior to the conflagration, the war in Liberia, we had a very tough time in Liberia dealing with extrajudicial closure of media institutions, the Daily Observer, Footprints, even the former erstwhile now ELCM, Community Radio, and several other media houses prior to the war. Meaning that the government could issue an edict, they could issue an order, and then you had law enforcement show up and close down the station. There was no due process. And the press union at that time fought vigorously with the Ministry of Information and the Executive Mansion to say that under our democratic system, you have to accord due process before you take such actions. That is what we argued for. We fought the Ministry of Information. In fact, I'll tell you a story. The Ministry of Information, as a way of trying to control the media way back then, wanted every journalist to register to practice in Liberia, with the press union coming in to say, this is something that is, novel. We don't want to, undertake that, and we don't want to be in bed with the Ministry of Information because the ministry can then revoke your credentials, and then you find yourself out of work because they simply don't like your reporting. I can remember, and please be to his ashes, the late Stanton Peabody of the Daily Observer newspaper simply said he wasn't going to comply with that, requirement from the Minister of Information. Now, the argument that we made to the Minister of Information was that as a business entity, media houses will have to register and follow all of the requirements, the tax, implication, and all of that as a business. But for media, personnel who are practicing, we don't think that having them register to practice in the country is a good idea, and we're not going to comply with that. The ministry relented, and we're able to have people practice in the place there. Now, so that's where we're from. We've argued if you're going to take any action against the media, it has to be due process. You have to go through the court. We shed blood. We, had a difficult time trying to convince the government at the time about, what the position is and what the Constitution, provides. We were able to get to the point in Liberia where the government, if they needed to take any action against the media because they simply didn't like your reporting or whatever, they had to go to court. The court represents due process. If we're going to go through the court, that's due process. Now, that's one side of this issue that we're dealing with, the press and the government and due process. In this instance, where we had a private citizen seeking relief through the courts because they were injured, allegedly injured, the totality of the circumstances that the court has looked at, from what I understand, this matter has been ongoing for some time. The court then issued an order. The court, the judicial system is one arm, equal arm of the three branches of government. They issue an order. Whatever that order is, part of that order meant going in and closing down the institution. If the press union has argued and fought for judicial action to go through the courts, if due process is the way to go, and and we have that, and a private citizen then takes advantage of that and goes to court, and the court issues an order, we cannot come back in a private matter as media practitioners and say, oh, you know what? Press freedom. The government is clamping down on press freedom. Listen, I understand what Mr. Mason is saying, that given the history of Liberia, there has to be some, incredulous situation where you believe that everything is all on board. I have my own doubts about what this whole thing is about, but we cannot argue that we have to go through due process in the court in a private matter and then come back and say, oh, even though you're a private citizen and you won your case, or the court is taking action to provide relief, the government is now, this is the court. The Ministry of Information, we have to deal with facts. The Ministry of Information on Friday issued a statement saying we have nothing to do with this. This is a private matter. Now, there is media solidarity. I understand what they're going through, but this is a private media and private citizen issue. If the consequence of allegedly defaming an individual means that you could ultimately lose in court, you have a duty to resolve that matter before you get to court. Let me give you a good example. Fox News in the US, they're reporting that they did injure someone or injure Dominion. Dominion felt injured and decided to go to court. Just on the eve of that trial, Fox, knowing that the case was overwhelming, did what was legally sound and what was business-like sound for them. They resolved the matter. The damages that Fox would have paid, maybe they had the money, but not very many media houses have that kind of damage money. What that will mean is the court will issue a guilty verdict of damage that is more than that institution, meaning that if the aggrieved party decides to enforce that judgment, it will ultimately lead to seizing the assets of the offending party. And if they seize the asset, that will also mean seizing the broadcast facility of that institution. Fox understood that they could have suffered very serious damage if they had gone to trial. So they settled. Why is it that Spoon, in this private matter, allowed this to get to the point where the court had to issue an order
Yeah,
to
but
show up at their doorstep?
probably Spoon feels that their reference to Mr. Smith as criminal is genuine, and so they will stand by it, and so the case went to court. But my point here is that now that the entity is closed, okay, and people are kind of like blaming the government. How do you think it's going to end? Is it like because the government has already distanced itself from the entire episode? So is it going to be like it remains closed until the court can come down with another verdict, or is it like I don't know? This is where we are now. What if you were president of the PUL, Mr. Abalo, at this time? What would have been your stance?
This will be a matter. This is a private matter, and as the press union, obviously, we have to look at the facts of the matter. In this instance, we want to understand clearly how did Spoon get to this point where the court had to visit their premise and issue, a closure order. If it went through the court and the merits of the case are such that they warrant having these people go to then we'll have to out of court work something out with the aggrieved party. I'm sure that will be done. In the case of not Spoon, Front Page Africa and Rodney Sear, unfortunately, the brother faced the same defamation suit. Some kind of arrangement was made with the intervention of some higher ups, and they were able to resolve that matter. But the aggrieved party at the time was intent on enforcing his judgment. They would not have opened Front Page Africa if this individual who was aggrieved wanted to pursue it to the end. That would have been the end of Front Page Africa. What I'm saying is, as the media, we cannot scream under the shield of press freedom when we violate media ethics. If we say we want to use the court for due process, the possibility of going to court, if you violate media ethics and constitutional rights of others, you risk having sanctioned by the court. So we have to be careful. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, Joe.
Or Lincoln, I just got a point. A point of concern. I want to know, have the case been adjudicated? I'm kind of confused here. I mean,
So let me say this: without knowing the details of where they are in that case.
I'm just complete. I mean, if the case, I don't know, if the case have not been adjudicated, is it right to do a full closure, or you do to close the station before hearing of the case? Is it falls within the legal realm? I mean, that kind of, it confuses me. I don't know. So
all right. So without knowing the detail, I haven't seen the writ, but without knowing what exactly or where they are in that case, it is possible that the court is enforcing an order based on default on a certain portion of the entire proceedings. I understand what you're saying, that a judgment at the conclusion of the case will lead to enforcement if the agreed party asks. But at this juncture, I'm not sure where they are in the case and what will precipitate the court issuing an order. And the government did not issue this order. This is what we say. It is a private citizen and the court. So let's not conflict the two.
Okay,
And
Joe.
yeah, let me say first, it's good to see Mr. Mbalo, somebody I have enormous respect for. Um, just I really, like the point he made, like I said to you, Linford, for me, they will all be excellent points. If you said, like, the fought for having, the government use the court, or having the court be the organ through which we can adjudicate this matter. Like I said, this is not the first time for us that the government have used the courts, I believe, as weapons for silencing individual or media institutions. The history are there. I cited 2019 when the Solicitor General, shut down shut down Roost FM, confiscated their property. 4 years later, it was 4 years later when perhaps, there was not even a use for Roost FM when they finally, gave those properties back. Patrick Honda, his permit to open a radio station was denied by the government. It took years. So it's if we believe in the integrity of the institutions we have in our country, and we all need to get to that point where I really believe that we have an independent judiciary. I believe we don't. I believe the judiciary in our country is subject to influence, is subject to being compromised. Whether that is the case in this instance, I don't know. Again, let Mr. Ballo said, we're all following this case and we will follow it to its logical conclusion. My hope is that, this is, as the information ministry said, void of any government influence, any government manipulation. I would want that to be the case. So that way, Monday, when they go to court, Mr. Smith is presenting a case and the folks from Spoon FM are presenting that case. And at the end of the day, it can be adjudicated in the way that is fair from both sides. But I'm saying history is our judge. History is our judge. We don't have a judiciary that is independent based on what has happened in the past. Until we get to that point where we can truly trust the system of government we have in our country, we have a right to be suspicious when these things happen, and that is where I'm coming from. That given everything that's happened over the last few years that has led us to this point, it's hard for me to say that this is completely void of any manipulation, as much as I want to believe it is not. But I'm hoping that it's not, because, I hope Spoon Network can come back on air. I don't want it to get to that point where this thing is dragged on with elections just 90 days away, and it is dragged to the point where we don't see them back on air till after the elections.
Okay.
I hope that is not the case.
Thank you, gentlemen. I know, like we always say on this show, your views are well respected. They may not be right. They may not sound good in our ears, but that's what you think. And everybody's kind of, entitled to his own views. But one thing, Francis, the question that Francis asked, whether the case has been adjudicated, it has not been. They're going to court. But again, if you and I know where Francis was coming from with that question. He intends to ask why, if the case is not yet adjudicated, why are they shutting down the entity? But I think it comes from the point where they want to take safety. If a driver is driving without a license and the policeman arrests him, you have to first of all stop him from driving, park him, and tell him not to drive again. So so I think the code is taking precautions.
So they will not incriminate what's being again. So the shut
Lincoln, I'll just agree with that analogy. I think this was. I think this could be used as a smoke screen. Who knows?
Yeah,
as we say, this is a private individual who felt offended. He has a right to go to court. But equally, so cannot dismiss the fact that this could be a small screen.
Yeah, but
Linford, here's the thing: we don't know.
we do
We
know.
have we have to operate on facts.
Yeah.
All right, as reporters and media, personnel, we have to operate on facts. We cannot speculate. I understand the feelings that the brothers have about the history we have regarding the media and the government in Liberia. I hope that Spoon can come on air. And I also wanted to speak to the fact that there are concerns that just 3 months before elections,
Mhm.
the court is blind to timing. I mean, at least in our country, it doesn't matter when a plaintiff shows up in court. If that will impact your ability to be on air and you risk losing your presence on air, that's something you need to consider. Let me speak about something called prior restraint in journalism. Let me use an example. If a source came to you, Linford, and said, I have information that arms are being smuggled through the airport,
Mhm.
and these arms are going to be used to destabilize the country. I want you to publish it. As a journalist, that is very sensitive information given what has happened in Liberia. You have two things. You either check out the information and report and be prepared for the consequences, or you exercise what they call prior restraint. Because first, you are a citizen before you are a journalist. You have a social responsibility to keep that society intact. You have a social responsibility. Now, you can publish and be damned, but what is your social responsibility to make sure that that society is not torn apart again? And it's possible that you might even sit out the story because of the history that we have with government in that country. These are things when we call prior restraint. There are things that you say, you know what, I don't want to carry this because the government's going to shut me down. It is not a good space for the media to operate in. But trust me, even in the West, there are stories that the Washington Post and these other, big newspapers get, the media houses get, and they stamp those stories. They don't carry them because of the danger of carrying those stories and the ultimate repercussion to the state. So prior restraint, if you know that this thing could cause problem for you and you have to deal with the distraction of closure of your entity and all of that, maybe there's a better way to go about publishing this story. All I'm saying is, as journalists, we have to practice prior restraint, stop yourself before you go ahead, and be mindful that people are now using the courts to punish journalists. We have to be mindful of that. We have to be mindful. If they're using the courts, then I have to operate in a different manner. I cannot, push and cry press freedom every time I get sued. What is my responsibility? I'm going to broadcast in such a way that I don't offend and I don't call people names. Listen to the media and some of the things they say on that. I'm not, being hard on the media, but sometimes it's disappointing that our own brothers and sisters in the media are not proficient. They're not cautious about the kind of things they say on the media. And we have to be careful. Now that
Mhm.
people are using the courts, we have to be careful what we put out there. So I hope that spoon comes up on the air.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, no, I just want to re-echo that sentiment.
Mhm.
As an organization, Linford, I think I said that earlier. We really want to emphasize the need for folks who practice the profession to continue to exhibit all the ethics the profession calls for. We need to be responsible in everything we do. We have a social responsibility. This profession comes with enormous responsibility because we have so much power. As journalists, and so we need to, with that power, we need to be more responsible in how we go about our reportorial duties. So I couldn't agree more with Mr. Ballo that we continue to, as journalists, stress that, especially to younger journalists who are coming up right now. There's so much challenge that the media has right now in our country, and to the extent that all of us here continue to hone that message that You can't just say anything you want to say. You can do whatever you want to do because you wear the title, journalist. It comes with responsibility.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. We are making progress, and it's so interesting that we have people who have worked in the media who know the complexities and not just uh, anybody. Like that our younger brothers who will just take a cell phone and go out there and begin to say what they want to say. But we are blessed that we have Mr. Abalo here, so I hope he has a few more minutes to spend with us. But let's transition to our main topic for tonight, which is the influence that the media has on electoral process across the world, bro. But we're considering Liberia. Now we have less than 90 days, 3 months to go to elections. But the media, as we just discussing what happened with Spoon, the media has a greater role to play. Whatever we say, look, listen, and then John Brown, Tontic, or Harry can stand on Broad Street and talk anything. People will say, oh, that man, maybe that man go for or he drunk. But let a media personnel stand and say, oh, the sky is coming down. People say, who said it? I Mario Abalo. Oh, I didn't have me. So whatever we say, whether we say it out of, joy or frustration or sentiments, people will take it seriously, you know. And so the media has a very, very greater role to play. Uh, the very spoon we're talking about, they go and give, some pool and say, oh, Joe Baga is leading. And people believe it, people follow them. Then closing argument will come out with a pool and they say, yeah, people, So the media is powerful, gentlemen. But let's individually look at from our own perspectives, how much influence do you think the media has on electoral process, especially in a country like Liberia, where the 90%, let me put it that way, 90% of the citizens are either illiterate or they fail to read for themselves, they fail to make research. And so they don't know, they depend on somebody to tell them something. So how much do you think the media can influence the elections in Liberia? It goes to both of you, Francis. You can chime in.
Let me go first, and because I'm going to be getting over, I have another meeting I have to attend. The
Mhm.
first thing I want to acknowledge here is what Alja has been doing in the last few years, which has been to empower, train local media in Liberia. They've expended a lot of resources trying to do that because there is a need to bring up to speed practitioners in the media back home. And I applaud you, Joe, and the rest of your executive leadership for what you've been doing in your own way, and also weighing in through press releases on issues that affect our people back home. Linford, you're very right that the media wields enormous power and responsibility. We cannot compare apples for apples when it comes to the electorate in Liberia versus that of the Western world. Okay, the Western world is a little sophisticated. There's also the new model of the citizen journalist, who now has a cell phone and he's a journalist, and they don't put context around what people are seeing. And so the less sophisticated in society believes everything that shows up on that cell phone. I'm speaking about in the Liberian situation, even in the West, unless a trained practitioner is able to put context, um, leading with facts, not conjecture, not speculation. Unless a trained person is able to put that in perspective, in context, we're going to have a situation where the media can be very damaging in a society and even cause instability.
Hmm.
So when you say, Linford, that the media has enormous power and influence, especially now that we go towards election, I can tell you that I look at reporting back home, there's a lot of division in our society right now because of this information. And I'm sorry to say, but I've gotten repeated information about the fact that it is a pay for play situation back in Liberia. This is the reason why Alja, you say and the rest of them have been going in to say, hey, let's empower the practicing media back home. We have to do better as a media, practitioners. We have to do better. The pay for play. If we don't pay, we're not carrying your story. Or after a story, this is the dark secret of the media. Joe, I'm sure you will agree. The dark secret of the media being, I got to get something. If not, I'm not carrying your story. It is expected. So politicians and people who have alternate agenda know that, and they exploit that to the detriment of our society. That's the reason why our society is divided to this. So we have an enormous responsibility, whether on social media or the traditional media like print and radio. We have an enormous responsibility to first be, to pay allegiance to the truth and be able to avoid, the distraction and the trappings of getting something for myself rather than society. That's the reason why some journalists are well respected, even in Liberia, and others, you call the name of a journalist and people like just for now or whatever. So we got to be very careful. So that's where, I wanted to comment. Thank you.
Okay, but since you're leaving us, because there are two things we're looking at: the disadvantages, where journalists could cause trouble just by pronouncing certain things, and then there are also good sides of it. The journalists could also mend the fences, or create that normal atmosphere. You want to comment on that just before you leave? Because we didn't get want to see that the
Yeah.
journalists are doing about the job, the
So,
bad job.
so,
It's a good thing.
yeah. So, for my panelists here, this is where credibility comes in.
Mhm.
As a journalist, if you have credibility and the ordinary person, the Yana boy, the market woman who listens to you on the radio, respect who you are and respect your word, you have an advantage in using that power and influence to mend fences. Everybody's going to wait for what you say if you have credibility. And that usually will dissipate disinformation. Once you speak, whether in an opinion piece or you're on the radio or whatever, because people trust you. And how do you gain trust? By allegiance to the truth, always taking up the truth and saying truth to power, and not being swayed by instant, monetary gain or whatever. As a journalist, the, the, the journalism profession is not a money making profession. I remember when I was in journalism school at the University of Liberia, I remember one of my professors saying, if you lose your credibility in journalism, find another profession, please, because nobody's going to ever believe you any longer. And that's the reason why some of us have left and we're here and we still maintain that credibility, Joel, myself, and you and others, because people know you have credibility and they can hang on your word. It's a tough thing to maintain that credibility because there are all kinds of distractions all through your life. But it comes from character. Who are you? Even before you're a journalist. So yeah, we can also mend fences and help society become a better society by using our credibility.
Okay, we'll have to let Mr. Abalo go because he was actually on wheels, meaning he was on the run when we grabbed him, and we hope we got the best out of him. So it's a pleasure having you, Mr. Abalo, and we hope to have you another time, and we need to talk on a private note. Thank you.
Thank you,
I
guys.
need to talk to that man on a private note.
Okay.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Okay. So Joe, you chime in here, because the reason why I'm keeping Francis is our guest panelist here. He can also ask questions. He can also comment. So Francis, don't think the journalists are taking over the whole show. No, they got a lot to talk. We get a chance to talk.
I mean, there's a learning curve for me. I'm learning as well, and engage in interacting. I mean, so
Yeah. Okay,
very
that's
good.
good. But Joe,
Yeah, talking about
let's look
influence.
at
Yeah,
how do you look at us journalists influencing electoral process, making it to look good or making it to look chaotic. How do you look at that?
yeah. Look, I'll say this. So important is the media to democracy that I dare say for any true democratic and transparent election to happen, you require the media, not just any media, but one that is vibrant, one that is independent, and one that is professional. Because you see, elections is a process. Free and fair election is not just about what happens on election day. It's not about just counting the ballot. I think it's about uh, and not just about the freedom to vote and knowing that, hey, my ballot will be counted at the end of the day, but I think it's about the whole participatory process where voters are engaged in public debate, and have the information they need to have about whether it is the parties that are contesting the elections, whether it is the policies and platform that they're advocating and they subscribe to. Do they know about the candidates? Who are these candidates? And do they know about the election process itself? In order for them to be able to make an informed choice or choices. So the media is key to ensuring that all these different components, all the different processes come together for the election to be deemed free, fair, and transparent. And I'm not just referring to traditional media. I'm not just referring to radio and TV and the newspapers. Like Mr. Mbalo said earlier, the definition of media has not just it's become much more broader than just the ones I just named. We talked about citizen journalism he mentioned. We talked about social media right now, where there's all these different platforms emerging all over the place. So, but it's important for these different forms of media to be involved in the way that helps the electorate, informs the electorate about the whole process, give them access to the candidates and the platforms, so that way, they can make an informed decision. Well, beyond the candidates, and I think the respective parties, the media also has an obligation to ensure that the National Election Commission is performing its role truly as this neutral arbiter, this body that is supposed to serve as the referee over this entire process. The media has to make sure we're holding that body responsible to ensure that they're truly performing their role per the Constitution. So there's several rules they have. So the media can serve as, this arm that educates, it serves as this arm that informs. But again, like Mr. Ballo said, it has to be credible. It has to be really credible. Otherwise, it just takes away from all the things I've mentioned. One of the things I think that's also important, Linford, the media needs to create a level playing field, especially the state media, taxpayer funded media. It has to provide equal access to all the candidates in these elections. Most times we look at when the ballots are not counted properly and we say, the election is rigged, but there can be nothing more devastating or disenfranchised or make it difficult for one candidate uh, to be able to send the message out there than when they don't have access to the media, when the state media especially is not providing enough information. So the media role is huge, it is significant. I mean, you can overemphasize that. It's as important as the election itself for the media to be involved.
Francis, any comment, any question?
Yeah, I mean, Joe just touched on my own concern. It has to do specifically with the media legislation in Liberia and the government runs media institutions. I mean, the ELBC, what you call it, and Lina, these institutions. I mean, the government has the funding. Government, I mean, right, as compared to other, contesting political parties in the race. Uh, how do you think that the government institutions can really create that level playing field, and especially put into context that is owned by the people? Every candidate has the right to go to ELBC and propagate his or her message or her manifesto or platform. So how do you think that they can divorce themselves?
Yeah. So I think first and foremost, the management of the state broadcast institution has to understand that they are not a partisan institution. They have to understand that they are funded by taxpayer money. And so, especially when it comes also have elections, everyone need to have access to ELBC. Everyone need to have access to Lena or all the state-run institution. But over the years, that has not been the case. When it comes to ELBC, the folks there believe that the government owns it, and so they promote only the government interest. And not all the candidates and parties have the financial means to heavily invest in the media during this election. Look, and elections are very, very, very expensive. I think we can all agree. But unfortunately, not everybody has the means to, pay the independent media to be able to carry the message. So those who don't will rely on the state-run media, and it's important for them to have access. Again, like I said, an uneven playing field can have a devastating impact on competition because someone might be a really excellent candidate, but because they don't have the means to, put their message out there, somebody who is not an excellent candidate, but has the means to send the message out there can be very successful.
I don't know what happened. Joe got stuck there. But Francis, you struck a good point. Like you have Lina, that's the Liberian News Agency. Then you have, of course, the four under the Ministry of Information, and they are all being paid by the government. They are, in fact, the leaders that are appointed by the government. So it's difficult, you know, to try to play the neutral role. I don't know what happened. Joe got frozen
No,
there.
no. I want to have. I just want to play this role. I mean, don't you
Mm.
think it would be in the interest of the country going forward to have a new legislation, media-wise, wherein these institutions can be apolitical? I mean, the appointees. I mean, 'cause it's very cardinal to see that you have people at ELBC, who would be neutral in a sense and would be impartial to give everybody the opportunity because we, the taxpayers, we pay money,
You
and
are
to,
right.
to, to, to sustain those institutions. So, I mean, everybody should be given the opportunity. So these appointees there going forward should be people that will, I mean, that will have what you call it, tenure positions, and whatever it is. I mean, it might just be like the Supreme Court of the United States or Supreme Court of Liberia. Especially when it comes to these kind of transition, when transitioning from one administration to another and have the crossroads, like and it create all these kind of instability. I mean, people are not genuinely given the opportunity. So I think I'm going forward. I know there should be a new media legislation in terms of these institutions where you have people there at ERBC who will be apolitical or who would not be. In a sense that you have your own political alliance, but you be open-minded so it can have. I mean, people have equal access to it because as Joe already stated, I know. I mean, you have a lot of people contesting who are very, 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 very good, who has good platform, but I mean, they'll be in oblivion because they don't have the finances. I mean, the messages will then die. So
You're right, Francis. I think we again we find ourselves in this situation where all of the officials of the Ministry of Information, they are appointed by government, even down to Lena, which is a Liberian news agency, they all appointed by government, and so in their mind, or probably ethically, they feel that they're entitled to obey the order of the day from the government. But I think it has to do with, like you said, making legislation that will make them independent. But then who does it? Is it the press union or is it the House of Elders or the representatives? Are they those that have oversight responsibility, or Minister of Information or the media? Are they the one? It's a whole complicated thing. But our time is fast spent, and Joe, I think Joe, we need to let Joe go. But Joe, I think we've expanded a lot on this, the role of the media and other things. But let's look at Archer. You are the current president, and I understand your tenure is over this September, right?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you one question. Are you satisfied with with the 4 years that you spent in leadership? Did you accomplish a lot?
Oh, I'm extremely pleased. I couldn't be more grateful, one, for just the confidence that my colleagues, have imposed in me over the last 4 years to run Alja, an organization of incredible individuals, some of the brightest minds that we have in the profession, and some who still work in the profession, and others now who have ventured into other areas, but I'm still a member of Alja. 4 years ago, when we took over, our goal was to do a number of things. One, expand Aja's reach, because mind you, Aja for many years was dormant, and when it was resuscitated in 2014 under my predecessor's leadership, Moses Sandy, we did you know an awesome job, just moving it from that dormant state to one in which now it was again relevant. It now became that organization where people could relate to. It became a respectable organization again. But what we then wanted to do when I took over now was to expand our just reach, and not just in the United States, but also in Liberia as well. And so we're able to build on the achievements of my predecessor, who of course I served on as vice president as well. So I've been a part of this leadership now for I would say 8 years. But we've managed to do that. Like Mr. Mbalo noted, we have expanded our reach. We've I engaged in training and manpower development of our colleagues in Liberia. We've done that now successfully over the last few years. That is something we've heavily invested in because we know that there's serious challenges when it comes to the media in Liberia. Beyond the training and manpower development, we've also invested in logistics and supplies because it's one thing for you to be able to um, practice profession is one thing for you to lack the resources you need to be able to do an awesome job. So we've been able to get computers and market recorders in the tunes of thousands and thousands of dollars to our colleagues over the last several years. We've also
Where did you fall short? Was there anywhere or anything that you wanted to do and you think you didn't do in the
oh,
last
okay.
4 years?
The major commission, let me see all the thing I was saying there, all the
No,
thing.
no, you continue. But I want to know your I want I want to know your shortcomings as well because
No, no,
you
but
like, oh
one,
yeah, we did it, we did that. But then where did you fall
The
short?
yes,
question, mega do the mega lay out the best part first. I agree.
yeah. But I'll say this. I think one of the things that I hope my successor will do is to be able to uh, have a consistent, sustained stream of income for Aja, for all to be able to really do some really big things. Right now we don't have that stream of income that is sustained, that we can identify this really big projects that we want to take on this project. We had this big windfall during COVID, when we got some money that really helped us out. But right now, the bulk of our just funding is from our members' contribution, what we're able to raise for our media fund drive during our convention. So I really hope my successor can do that. But then again, there's always the opportunity to build upon what we've done. Even though I'm pleased and proud of what we've achieved, but I'm hoping that whoever my predecessor is can do even better, can move the needle from this point to that point, because that's what I want. I'm sure that's what every incumbent wants, so that way Aja is not regressing, but Aja is making steady progress.
You will tell us the rest of what you did.
Oh, so one of the things I think we're pleased about, in fact, I think I mentioned this training and manpower development, which is important for our colleagues in Liberia. What we've been able to do is to build relationship with a number of journalism institutions in the country, here in the United States. Specifically, I can mention the Herbert School of Journalism at the University of Minnesota. We have an excellent relationship with them. We have a partnership where they're consistently providing us experts and resources at our conventions, and we're hoping that can transcend to the Department of Communications and Media Studies at the University of Liberia. We also have a really wonderful relationship with the Institute of Community Integration at the U of M as well. We do have some funding for them on the regular basis. So just building relationship. What we try to do when we go to maybe a city for our convention, we try to strengthen relationship with journalism schools in those cities. We did that in New Jersey. We did that in Worcester. We have a permanent relationship with the school here in Minnesota. So that is something really I'm really pleased about, because we need this expertise to be able to really help to develop the capacity of our colleagues in Liberia as well.
Francis, want to chime in?
Well, yeah. During your administration, have you had any collaboration with USAID? I mean, in training USAID and the President of Liberia in helping uh, train our local journalists in the print and electronic media as well.
Not USAID particularly, but we do partner with the PEL. The PEL, as the mother organization of journalists in the country, is a partner of ALJA. Um, Unfortunately, there's been some issues with leadership over the last few months, but we recognize the PEL, and we continue to partner with them on a consistent basis. Like I said, what we've done in terms of training and manpower development has been funded entirely from resources that we've been able to raise as an organization, whether it's by individual contribution or a partnership with organizations that have been able to assist AGA with funding, or funds we raise when we meet annually at our convention. So we use this money to provide training and provide logistics. Oh, I also forgot to mention, Linford, we also have a scholarship fund, right, naming honor of Mr. Joseph Ter. You don't know Joe Ter, who passed 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We have a scholarship fund drive now for students at the Department of Communication and Media Studies at the University of Liberia. So that is something that we launched under this administration. I'm really pleased about that. I'm hopeful that we can continue to increase the number of students who are on the scholarship, because I mean, again, like I said, the need is just huge when it comes to what the media is facing now currently. When you and I work in the media, Linford, we could again literally count the media institutions in terms of how many radio stations we had, how many newspapers we had, how many television stations we had, and there was not this explosion of all these different media on social media and then the citizen journalism. Right now, in Liberia, you probably have over 100 radio stations. You have, dozens of newspapers and television stations, and you have, these entities that need trained manpower. And I think the media entities are growing faster than they can get the manpower who are trained and able to work effectively in these institutions. So our responsibility is to continue to help in training and developing their capacities.
Yeah, just quickly, before you leave, I mean, I want to suggest that Asia, how you call it, Asia, am I calling it
Alja,
right?
yes, Alja for short. Yeah.
Asia, uh, I will request implore your administration, your before you leave, can you guys come together? I mean, help our colleagues, your colleagues in Europe and in Australia to probably organize themselves, or probably be associate member of your institution, so that it can probably enhance the skills. I mean, because I know most of them are not practicing now, because I know different path they have taken career wise. So it will be a good thing that you guys can help them organize themselves in the organization. I mean, because both
Yeah,
of you
no,
guys.
I couldn't agree more with you, Francis. Which is why I'm hoping Linford can show up at our convention this year. I've been, pushing him now to come and attend one of our convention. He's in Europe. He will be, just an ideal person to be able to rally the folks in Europe I know right now all his focus, all his attention is on winning this election for the CPP. But hopefully after the elections, he can devote some time to putting together the group in Europe. But it will be an excellent thing. I know a lot of our colleagues are in Europe, and it will be a good thing to have them come under the umbrella and be a part of what we do.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Francis, for that suggestion. Or we've been thinking about that, but it's been very difficult to locate any journalists around here. But we will try our best. And concerning the convention, Joe, I think we'll close on this one very quickly in less than 2-3 minutes. Um, what are the highlights of the convention this year, and where is it going to be held specifically, and whom are those people we expect to see around the convention?
The highlight obviously would be the elections because we're electing a new corps of officers. Whenever there is elections in Alger, it generates that interest where our members are traveling from all over and coming. I'm also looking forward this year to having quite a few of our colleagues from Monrovia join us at this year's convention to be a part of what we're doing. So we're beginning on the 14th of September. The convention is being held in Minnesota where I live. We are beginning on the 14th, that is on a Thursday, and through Sunday. Some of the highlights, of course, include training, which is what we will do. We've done that consistently now over the last several years of our convention. There will be training and capacity building. Um, it's in partnership with the University of Minnesota School of Journalism and the Institute of Community Studies in Alger. So it's a combined training that we'll host on the campus of the University of Minnesota. So I'm looking forward to that. As a matter of fact, our team this year for the convention, and we talked about the role the media can play in these elections. Our team this year is how can the media ensure that the 2023 presidential and general elections are transparent and violence free. We believe the two are inextricably linked. Hence the emphasis on the two, because I'm sure not just you, others will agree that if these elections are illegitimate, if these elections are rigged, chances are there might be violence. Conversely, we want these elections to be held in an atmosphere of peace and cordiality in a non-violent manner. So that will be our emphasis on these elections, that it is held peacefully and it is transparent. So what we will do is focus on that team again. Like I said, there will be speakers coming from different parts of the country. We'll have teachers, professors from the university to be able to be a part of the training that we'll provide to our colleagues coming from outside Liberia, but also those who are here in the United States. We also have some of our colleagues who we anticipate to come from foreign missions, whether it's China, whether it's Germany or Saudi Arabia. So there will be folks coming from from every part of the world. So we're looking forward to an incredible convention. We're hoping it will be the biggest convention yet. We intend to raise as much money as we can raise during our media fund drive, which will be when we hold our ball on that Saturday evening. One of the things that will be new this year, Linford, is the fact that we'll begin recognizing journalists who have sacrificed, who have trailblazed when it comes to the freedom we enjoy now as journalists. Look, I believe uh, Mr. Manabalo was over there talking about his role he played in the profession. Look, the freedom folks enjoy now is because of the sweat and the tears of many who've come before us. And we believe at Alja that those folks have not been given their due recognition in terms of what they were able to achieve over the course of their professional career to the point that we are right now. I mean, you talked about some of what used to happen back in the days. Newspaper was being closed. Look, I know we're talking about the closure now, but back in the days, it was commonplace for radio station, newspapers to be closed, for journalists to be in prison, and all kinds of things were happening. Those folks, some of them are still around today. We want to make sure that we're giving them their flowers while they are alive. So what we've done is to set up an independent committee that is looking out there for individuals that we can recognize. It will be an annual thing that I will begin to do now, even when I'm gone. Just make sure we're recognizing those individuals who made sacrifices for the profession to be what it is right now. So we'll do that as part of the convention. So it will be an exciting 4 days of activities, and we're looking forward to our colleagues coming together in September.
Well. Very much well said, and I wouldn't be happy, more than happy, than what I am now. So Joe, we want to say thank you very much and for coming. It was very impromptu, so to speak, because I just took you by surprise yesterday, and you said yes. And so, thanks a lot for taking up your time. I know.
And we didn't know we're going to be close today, so it made it all
Yeah,
the more.
it was coincidental. So, so, but we want to say thank you a lot, and we hope that yeah, we can be at Agile convention this year. We don't know yet. We still have to work on a few details on holiday plans and stuff like that. And Francis, it was good that you appear also, because it was just yesterday I contacted you and you said yes. And again, like I said to you earlier on, you're going to be fast forward. You're going to be our guest contributor here, and so we hope you create that room. And Joe, anytime we can get on to you. Before this convention, probably we might get to you, and then you will tell us the final preparations, how far you guys are going, and what you expect. What are your bottlenecks that you have to overcome before the convention? So, all in all, it was a good show. I don't know if any of you have anything to say, but I think everything was well said, and I congratulate you guys.
Yeah, I just want to thank you, Linfo, for the invitation. Thanks to you, Francis. I mean, I'm just meeting you for the first time, but it's just great to meet you. And Linfo, again, I'm thankful that I'm on today, and I'm looking forward to coming back at some time in the future to talk about Alja, or as the issues might deem necessary.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting time here today. Thank you so much.
And we all are following this Spunting, and probably when Spunting is settled, we can come back here again and
Yeah,
retrospect.
certainly,
Okay.
certainly.
So, Francis, anything else?
Yeah, again, I just want to thank you for the opportunity today, and thanks for Joe for accepting the invitation. It's a pleasure. It was an honor, getting to meet new people. Thanks for the job you do for Liberia, and finally, before I close, and I want to use this opportunity to inform our listening audience about our forthcoming 2026 celebration in Amsterdam, the Netherlands. It's going to be uh, an epic event, so don't miss out. We have a lot of highlights coming up, interesting things coming up, so don't miss out. July 28th to the 30th in Amsterdam, the EFLA, the European Federation of Liberian Associations. It's similar to ULA. It's the embryo organizations of Liberians in Europe, and we'll be having elections, and a lot of interesting things we have. We should have Senator Darius DeLone to be our keynote speaker, and we expect the Minister of Agriculture as well to be one of our chief launchers. So on that note, Lincoln, hope to see you, but now wouldn't see you have your own program coming up in Norway, and hopefully Joe and his people might consider coming there in Amsterdam. July, I know the time is so short, but never know.
Okay.
When patriotism is calling, people can always come in and make that clear call.
Okay. The bottom line is going to send you a bill.
We need to go. We need to keep the promoting the program on this platform.
Okay, I'm just kidding. But I want to say thank you very much, gentlemen, and it was a pleasure having you guys. And so next time, we hope we can have you guys. Thanks to our viewers. Um, um, we hope that you've had the best of what we discussed here, and we hope to be back here again. So on that note, I'll let us say have a nice day. And Joe, my uh, the Norwegian thing still come in my head. My greeting to the family and the
Oh,
rest.
thank you so much, and same to your family as well.
Okay.
Okay.
So
All right, guys.